Hey there, welcome back to Jillian On Love. One of the hardest parts of being in a relationship is knowing the difference between unmet needs and unrealistic expectations. A profound lesson that I've learned about doing this work for so long is that when we have these grand expectations of our partner and of our relationship, believe it or not, that leads to more breakups than you can ever imagine. And a lot of us are walking around with very unrealistic expectations of our partner and of our relationship with them. And yet, our needs in a relationship are very important. People don't break up when their needs are being met. It's just the bottom line. But where do we draw that line between the needs that we should expect to be met and the expectations that we have that are sabotaging our chances of being in something healthy and fulfilling? And so I break it all down in this episode, and this is actually an episode that was released about a year ago, and it was so incredibly popular. So many of you found it to be one of the most helpful podcast episodes they've ever listened to, ever. So I wanted to release it again because it is probably one of the most important messages and teachings that I could ever share with you. How to know when your needs are being unmet or you are just unrealistically expecting something from someone else. So without further ado, here's the episode. When we enter a relationship with someone who we're very excited about, until we become aware of this is something that lives inside all of us. We have an unconscious desire, an unconscious hope, an unconscious dream that this other person is going to come into our life and heal all our childhood wounds and fill all our voids and make up for the fact that we have, this problem and that problem. And that they're going to make us feel whole. And it's not our fault for believing that, because this is part of what we've been fed by literature and films and art, right? And we are all on a quest to feel more whole. I think that that's sort of when we are in the pursuit of happiness or we're in the pursuit of meaning and purpose, it's because we want to feel more completed and whole inside. There's something uniquely special about falling in love and having that experience with someone. And even though intellectually we can say to ourselves, oh, I know no one else can make me happy, no one else can make me whole, that's on me, we still have that desire, that dream that someone is going to come into our lives and love us the way that perhaps a parent didn't love us, or truly understand us in a way that maybe no one has been able to understand us before. Like, we long as human beings to be understood. We long to be seen for who we really are. No one actually wants to put on a mask. I mean, unless you're like some person who's highly manipulative and extremely, extremely emotionally sick, no one actually wants to have to wear a mask to cover up who we are and our identity with someone else. No one wants to be avoidant. No one wants to be anxious in a relationship. Nobody enters a relationship wanting it to be unhealthy. We want to be understood so badly, more than we actually understand ourselves. And so when we meet someone and we have this experience of falling in love with them, we're having this experience of oneness. And what really is happening is that this external force, which is in the shape of another person who we have chemistry with and we're attracted to and we get along with, they are literally the stimulus that triggers inside of us an awakening. And we wake up from a dormancy of feeling dormant inside. And when we wake up from feeling dormant, and that dormancy could be boredom, it could feel like you don't have any purpose, it could feel like loneliness, right? I'm not going to even say depression or anxiety, because those are all the results of feeling chronically lonely, feeling bored, feeling like you don't know what your purpose is. Maybe you don't feel connected to yourself. You don't feel connected to community. Maybe you don't feel connected to nature. And then this person comes along and they awaken inside of us the thing that's been sleeping. And then we feel alive. We think we're under the illusion that it's this other person who is the only thing and person who has the power to give us that feeling of aliveness. When in reality, they're not giving us that. They are literally the stimulus that triggers inside of us something that we can access on our own. Now, I'm not going to BS you and say that, that there's anything quite like feeling that falling in love and that excitement, right? Because it's fun, it's adventurous, it's deep, it's intense, it's erotic, it's sexual, it's sensual. But there have been moments in your life, I can guarantee, where you have felt that sense of connection and oneness. Maybe it's listening to your favorite music. Maybe it's dancing. Maybe when you were spending time in nature. We have these fleeting moments where we feel truly, truly connected. And if we haven't felt that in a long time, and this person comes into our life, we think, and they awaken that, we think we can't live without this person. Because if they go away, then I have to go back to feeling dead inside. And so what is formed is attachment. And it transcends your attachment style. It does not matter how secure, anxious, or avoidant you are. Sure, that plays a role and can definitely exacerbate certain things, but I'm speaking about a very human experience. And we get attached to that person, and we don't want them to change. We don't want it to change. We don't want anything about our connection and our dynamic and our flow together to change. We get attached to all of it because unconsciously we believe that without that, we're just going to go back to the hell that we were experiencing beforehand. And I use hell, and your life could have actually been quite good, but even if it's just a little bit of that boredom, this is why we get so much more attached to someone, and we will get so much more obsessive about someone and even maybe develop some limerence the greater our lack of purpose, meaning, sense of self is before we meet the person, or if we're going through a particularly difficult time. That is why I've said this before and I'll say it again. They are just a metaphor. In the beginning, it's all very, very metaphorical. This episode is sponsored by Bumble. You have to date like the person you want to attract. You have to bring your authenticity and you have to bring good social skills into how you show up on Bumble. And remember, every connection is progress. Whether it's a match, or maybe you, for the first time, expressed a really important boundary, or you had a moment of clarity about what it is that you want or you don't want. Again, that's serious progress. And I have to tell you about new app improvements on Bumble. There's actually a mandatory phone and photo verification. plus optional ID verification, all making Bumble safer and more trustworthy. And this is so incredibly important. There's also shared interest badges that help you quickly find common ground and start meaningful and better conversations. And there's real-time nudges and in-app advice from people such as me that help prevent ghosting and support members at key moments of their dating journey. Download Bumble today at bumble.com. So we form this attachment, and then we get into a relationship with the person, and we think, you can't do anything different than what you've been doing this whole time up until this point, because I feel so good. And I feel so good because you are a certain way, doing a certain thing. And because of you, I am alive, I am awake, I am fulfilled, I am happy. And this is what we do. And it's one of the greatest, in my beliefs, conundrums of being a human being, because the reality is, the truth is, it's not them. Sure, they may be adding value to your life, they may be making your life better, but that feeling that they are bringing to your life can't last, because nothing is permanent. They change, we change, the relationship changes, as it should, because as a relationship evolves from the falling in love stage into the more committed, comfortable, stable stage of the relationship, that's when we start to realize, again, this is all unconscious stuff, like, oh, I'm an autonomous human being. I don't actually have to spend every waking moment with this person. Or, oh, we're together now. We have some security. Now I can actually, go off with my friends and do some things, not with this person, so that I can remind myself that, I am my own person and they're their own person. And then we also realize this. We realize that this other person, and they realize this in us too, that we're actually not perfect, that we're not an angel sent from heaven. And I use that very metaphorically, regardless of what your spiritual beliefs are. They're not sent to you by God or whatever you believe in. They're not an angel. They're not perfect. They have bad breath sometimes, and they have bad breath in the morning, and they go to the bathroom just like you do, and they have an inner child, and they have their own wounds, and they have their own fears, and they have their own weird quirks and bad habits. And we think, now you're doing stuff that's not making me have that aliveness inside of me anymore. Now you're sometimes kind of annoying me, and I don't feel as complete and whole and fulfilled as I did in the beginning. Or now, some of my depression and my anxiety is coming back because you're not, staring into my eyes 24/7 and telling me how incredibly gorgeous and amazing I am and how lucky you are to have found me. You're not doing that for several hours a day anymore. So something must be wrong with you. I must have chosen the wrong person, or you don't care anymore. And we start to then build resentment inside, because we've had the unrealistic expectation that another person other than ourselves can actually fulfill us, can actually make us happy, can actually make us safe, can actually take away all our boredom, can, awaken the dormant parts of ourselves all the time. Fulfillment is an inside job. And we get that by finding meaning in life. It's on us to discover what gives our lives meaning. And then it's also on us to pursue the things that give our life meaning. And in my view, in my book, a relationship should add to the meaning in your life. Your relationship should be very meaningful to you. Otherwise, what's the point of being in it? But it can't be the only source of fulfillment and meaning in your life. And happiness, no one can actually make you happy. And we're moving in and out of emotional states all day long. So to pursue happiness all the time is ridiculous. It's a recipe, paradoxically, for depression. And no one can actually make you happy all the time, because that means that they have to never change and be exactly how you want them to be and never disappoint you and not have their own voice. And they themselves can't have any problems, because if they have problems, then, you love them. So you feel that too. And so then you could never be happy because they have problems too. And I know that this is probably making sense intellectually, but this is what we do. And then we forget that the person that we're with is actually a gift. We think they're a given. And we start to build up resentment. And we're resentful of the very things that just makes them a human being, like we're a human being. People actually get resentful of someone not being who we projected onto them. We've been sold the lie that someone's going to complete us. So we project an ideal onto them. We have this secret desire for someone to be more evolved than us, to be more emotionally mature, to be more self-aware, just generally, like I said, more evolved. And then when we realize that the person that we're with, more times than not, is at a similar level of consciousness that we are. They may have completely different problems, completely different habits, they're a completely different person. But they're no more evolved than we are. And we all want that. We want that in a partner. Unconsciously, we want someone who's going to be more like a parent, more evolved, who's going to love us unconditionally. And so when we start to fall off each other's pedestals and we see that we are actually two flawed individuals, seeing if we have what it takes to make it work together, like compatibility, like shared values, like being able to communicate, like the having a similar belief system around what a relationship should be and a similar level of investment, all of that. When we get to that point, this is really when we can see, this is when all the projections have to fall away, and we have to recognize, we have to have the shared awareness with someone else that we are two people trying to figure out how to straddle the line between togetherness and separateness. How are we going to grow as a couple? And how are we going to grow individually? And this is super delicate. And this is why choosing someone who has a similar point of view about this is I think incredibly key. So it's an unrealistic expectation to think that your partner is never going to change. It's an unrealistic expectation to think that your partner is going to change just for your benefit. It's an unrealistic expectation to believe that you can change your partner. And it's an unrealistic expectation that your partner is always going to be able to meet all your needs and make you happy and fulfill you. Most of the time in a relationship, I tell people, and I've told many couples before, you have to start appreciating each other more rather than always looking for what's wrong. When you're trying to figure out, are my expectations unrealistic? You have to say, you have to ask yourself, am I expecting this person to make me feel safe all the time when I entered this relationship not feeling safe at all in my body? Am I expecting this person to heal the parts of me that don't feel enough? And am I then not working on the fact that I don't feel good enough and it has nothing to do with them? This episode is sponsored by Fatty 15. I'm really excited to share with you guys an incredible new supplement. It's C15 from Fatty 15, and it's the first emerging essential fatty acid to be discovered in more than 90 years. It's actually an incredible scientific breakthrough to support our long-term health and wellness. and healthy aging. Based on over 100 studies, we now know that C15 in particular strengthens our cells and is a key healthy aging nutrient, which helps to slow biological aging at the cellular level. Because when our cells age, our bodies do too. Best of all, fatty 15 actually comes in a really beautiful reusable glass/bamboo jar, and refills are shipped right to your door. I just love it. Fatty 15 is on a mission to optimize your C15 levels to help support your long-term health and wellness, especially as you age. You can get an additional 15% off their 90-day subscription starter kit by going to fatty15.com/Jillian and using code Jillian at checkout. So we all go into a relationship with our own stuff, with our own fears, our own hangups about the ways that we have not felt enough. And we know this because it's come up in other relationships. When the same things keep coming up with different partners, you realize that you are the common denominator. And it doesn't mean it's all your fault. And I don't even like to say the problem is you. I know that's a very popular thing, but I don't really like to say that. I don't want anyone to think that they're the quote unquote problem. But if the same things keep coming up, it's not your partner, it's something inside of you. So if you go into a relationship with knowing that like you don't feel like you struggle with people pleasing, maybe you struggle with, really asserting yourself. And then you project onto your partner like, I'm not able to really express myself with you. Is it really them? Or is it you? So we have to take responsibility for our patterns, and we have to take responsibility for our happiness and for our meaning and for our safety. A relationship should add to your sense of safety, not take away from it. A relationship should add to your sense of meaning and purpose, not take away from it. So again, it's about adding to your life. It's not creating your life. It's not making your life. And the more that we are dependent on another person, like a partner, and the more that we're dependent on a relationship to be a certain way so that we can be happy, we are essentially giving someone else and the relationship the key to make us unhappy, because nothing is permanent and we need to be able to access that on our own. And we don't want to feel like if the relationship ends, we have nothing and we are nothing. Now, when it comes to unmet needs, people who have their needs fully met in a relationship don't end the relationship. A huge reason why relationships end is because people are not meeting each other's needs. There is that delicate balance of I have to meet my needs and I want my needs to be met by my partner. But too many of us get into relationships thinking about our own needs. They think about their own needs and they don't think about, am I actually meeting this person's needs too? We go to a relationship to give. And yes, we go into a relationship to receive, but you really have to think giving and being with someone who's interested in giving too. So everyone has these core needs. Everyone has the need to feel secure. Everyone has the need to feel like there's some excitement and adventure. Everyone has the need to feel like important to someone. Everyone has the need to feel loved and connected to someone. Everyone has the need to grow in some way. So if you think of these as like your core needs in a relationship, and you can even like write this down, what needs are the most important ones to you? Like some people, feeling safe is like their number one. But for others, it's like, they want adventure. So you need to know which are the most important needs for you in a relationship. And then you have to have the conversation with each other. Everybody wants to feel loved, but they have different rules about what has to happen in order for them to feel loved. Some of that falls into the category of love languages. Like, I feel loved when you hug me. I feel loved when you tell me you love me. I feel loved when you do this for me. And you have to be able to discuss this with someone who you're in a relationship with. And you have to be able to speak each other's languages. So when you're like are my needs, how do I know it's unmet needs? Well, you can say, okay, do I feel secure in this relationship? And you might say, well, no, I don't feel secure. I don't, there's been certain things that have happened, or they are constantly pulling away. You can ask yourself, like, do I feel safe in my body? Did I feel safe in my body coming into this relationship? Do I know that I have my own back? And you can say, yes. I have some insecurities. But ultimately, I did not enter this relationship with the expectation that this person is supposed to make me feel safe all the time when I don't know how to feel safe at all in myself. And then you can say, well, okay, I've told this person what I need to feel safe, and they're just not able to do it. They're just not receptive to what it is that I need. Then you might say that's an unmet need. For you, it might be, this person I'll never feel secure with this person because they don't want the same things that I do. And so I never feel like we're really on the same page. That's an unmet need. And if you talk about it and the two of you can't get on the same page, that is an unmet need. You could say, I want date night once in a while, or I want to try different things in the bedroom, or I want us to have some adventures. And you're in a relationship with someone who likes things to be the same all the time. They just like routine. You knew that going in, right? So you can say, well, that's an unmet need of mine, and that's a really important need. So again, you talk about it. And if it just doesn't change, then you would just have to decide, can I get that need met through my work or through my friendships? Or do I really need it to be met by my partner? See, everything is about negotiation. And it's about deciding what's worth it to you and what's not. And you could say, my partner's an amazing person. They're just never going to want to, and I love them and I feel loved by them, but they're never going to want to have these adventurous vacations with me. So you can say, that's really important to me. I want to go find someone who wants to do that. Okay. But is that worth it to you, or can you go do it with some other friends? When people are complaining and worried about their needs not being met in a relationship, it's because they don't truly feel important to the other person, and they don't feel safe and secure. And what that translates is that there's a lack of trust, and they don't feel seen, and they don't feel understood. And usually underneath that is a communication breakdown. That's different than expecting your partner to make you happy all the time and to fulfill you, and to depend on your partner to be everything, your best friend, your confidant, your lover, your family member, your spouse, everything. And what we really need to do is come into a relationship having other sources of love and community. And it doesn't have to be like tons. You don't have to have this giant circle. But it's about entering a relationship with having some of those parts in place so that you do not make your partner responsible for making you feel alive when not feeling alive is how you entered the relationship. This episode is sponsored by Quince. Quince really has it all. It has a $50 Mongolian cashmere sweater made for everyday wear. They have incredible denim. They have really beautiful silk tops and skirts. And they have down outerwear that's built to take on very cold weather. Honestly, their Italian wool coats are on the top of my list. The cut feels very chic, and the quality is incredible without the high-end markup. By working directly with ethical top-tier factories, Quince skips the middlemen and offers prices 50% less than similar brands. So step into holiday season with layers made to feel good, look polished, and last from Quince. Perfect for gifting or keeping for yourself. Go to quince.com/onlove for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada too. That's QUINCE.com/onlove
quince.com/onlove to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/onlove.
So when you're trying to differentiate between unmet needs and unrealistic expectations, you have to ask yourself, where was I when I met this person psycho-emotionally? And is there a part of me that is expecting them to be perfect? And then the last point, one of the most important points that I will make this entire episode is, how have I been as a partner to them? Do they feel loved? Do they feel safe with me? So whenever you're having that conversation with yourself or with friends or with a therapist, and you're thinking about and maybe obsessing about what it is that you're getting or not getting in the relationship, and you're caught up in some resentment, ask yourself, am I meeting their needs? How have I been as a partner to this person? Or have I only been obsessed with what it is that I want and that I need? And how clear am I about the kind of relationship that I want to build? And how much have I been putting in that work to build it? And you've got to watch the resentment. It's not going to help you to be resentful of someone for just being human. I hope that helps. It's a really important thing to remember. It's really important, especially if you're dating, to stay grounded, that when someone triggers this awakening inside of you, that is just something that is inside of you already. And the moment you start to feel yourself get really attached to someone, remember what you're actually attaching to. You think it's them, but really it's the feeling that you get when you're with them. And that's human, but it's also very dangerous because it's not permanent. Even if you end up marrying and staying together till you die, it's not permanent. So much of it is being able to say, this is amazing. I'm having an amazing time. This is so great. This feels so good. And to be able to stay grounded and understanding, having that shared awareness, even with them, to discuss it, be like, this is amazing. It's not, at some point things are going to get really real and we're not going to be in la la land anymore. And, how are we going to handle it once that happens? And that is, for me, really what it means to bring a level of maturity, a high level of maturity and realism and flexibility to the whole dance that is falling in love and relationship. Now, I wanted to read a question from someone who submitted a question. It's a really, really good one. I wanted to share this with everyone because I have a subscriber section to the podcast, and this is for people who want to listen to Jillian on Love without ads and to get their questions answered. And I go into depth, and sometimes I go, there's 3 questions that I answer at a time. There's also guided meditations. And so if this is something that interests you and you want to get more of this, definitely check below. It's called Jillian on Love Plus. It's linked out at the bottom of the show notes. And it's for a very small monthly fee, and would love to have you. I think that it's going to be extremely helpful. I'll go ahead and read this question that was submitted to me from someone who has been, trying to let go of someone who she feels deeply connected to. They have this magical connection, but he doesn't want a relationship. And so she has found herself becoming totally obsessive about this person and becoming someone who she doesn't even recognize herself in how she's ruminating. And she wants to know the $1 million question is, how do I let go? So let me read this and I'm going to let you know how to let go. And I'm going to offer you some insight that I think is going to be very interesting and very helpful. Dear Jillian, I am currently in the process of trying to let go of someone. He's great and kind, one of the most emotionally switched on guys I've known, but he isn't ready for a relationship. We started with a bang, and it was unlike anything either of us have known, a rare and beautifully close connection. But he's currently traveling, doing his thing, and he wants to be free. In the 8 months leading up to him leaving for this once-in-a-lifetime trip, he was very clear that he didn't want a relationship. However, as I'm sure you can guess, we fell into a situationship. But the tension between us of me wanting to commit and him not created a lot of unsettling moments between us. He is desperate to remain friends. I'm struggling with doing that. I have not been the best version of me. So here's where I start to be honest. My behaviors and habit have fallen into obsessing over where he is and who he's with. And I've been stalking his social media constantly. But honestly, this isn't about him. I'm asking about letting go, about the habits that come with obsessing, ruminating, comparison, insecurity, jealousy, not being able to stop checking his social media, looking to see the girl that he's been kind of hanging out with. I know it's bad, but I can't stop. Why? How? He takes up so much time and space in my head, my thoughts, and some days fully derails my life if I am upset or triggered. Okay. So there's a couple of things going on. One is you're having a human experience with a human reaction to rejection. Even though he didn't actually reject you, it feels like rejection because he is choosing his freedom over being in a relationship with you. And even though this is not about you, understandably, you're making it about you because you want it. And so when we get rejected, we become obsessed. Rejection breeds obsession. Even though I believe it's redirection, I believe it's protection, but it does breed obsession. And so the jealousy and all that you're experiencing, again, you're having a human experience and a human reaction to rejection. But here's some things that I also want you to consider. It's also, the ego is part of the human experience, but it is very much part of the ego. He does not want me. He's choosing someone else, or he's choosing something else. He's choosing to have other connections. And meanwhile, I thought we had this incredible connection and he's not seeing it or he's not choosing it. So you feel unchosen. And that is a huge bruise to the ego. And so it's important for you to recognize that what you're experiencing in something like this is a lack of significance. All of a sudden, you felt really important to someone, and it's like you've been demoted, and you're below his freedom. You might be below other women that he meets along the way of his freedom and travels. And so you don't feel as important. That can drive a person crazy. And it can particularly drive a person crazy if they don't feel important anyway. It can drive a person particularly into madness when achievement and being number one at everything that they do and perfectionism has sort of been the blueprint that has controlled their lives. Again, so it really boils down to the ego.
This episode is sponsored by Indeed. Hiring isn't just about finding someone who's willing to take the job. You need the right person with the right values and the right background who can move your business forward. Personally, if I wanted candidates who match what I'm looking for, I absolutely trust Indeed sponsored jobs because hiring Indeed is really truly all you need. Like, for example, if I needed to hire an editor, I'd go to Indeed and be super specific, not just can edit audio. I'd say I need someone who's edited conversational podcasts for at least 3 years, gets our style and knows our software. That's what is so amazing about Indeed. You get people who fit that description. So spend more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Less stress, less time, more results now with Indeed sponsored jobs. And listeners of the show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/ Indeed.com/JOL. Just go to Indeed.com/JOL right now and support our show, please, by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/JOL. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, do it the right way with Indeed.
And then there is just the human experience of feeling jealous because you had a very passionate relationship. Usually these relationships that only last a few months, they're under a year and you're feeling like this deep connection, but then you know you can't be together because someone doesn't want to be in a relationship, which triggers even more desire because the more we are aware of the fact, the more that we're reminded of the fact that we can't have someone, the more that we want them. And so our desire for them just doubles down. And so the more that we feel desirous of someone, the more passion we have with someone, the more jealousy we will feel when they are not with us and perhaps with someone else. Also all part of the human condition. So how do you turn it off? Well, you realize, number one, that you are experiencing rejection and you're making this about you when really this is about them. There's no doubt in my mind that you feel an extreme amount of passion for this person and lust and connection, and I'm not undermining it all. And perhaps if the two of you were to remain together, you would fall in love, but perhaps not. Perhaps when you were, a year and a half in, you would realize there are certain things that you really don't like about each other, or you think that's totally wrong, or you find out that you're totally incompatible and it would have ended anyway. So there's no doubt in my mind that you feel a tremendous amount of passion, but I don't believe that you actually are in love with this person. I think that you're more in love with the idea of this person. And when you can see that if you can see that you are in the throes of lust and a dream and a projection of a dream and all these emotions, like this is when our emotions are so heightened, this is why you feel crazy. And I think that this will help you to stop obsessing and ruminating because you want to understand what is actually happening. And I don't want to, this isn't about psychoanalyzing your past or your childhood or your relationship with your parents. None of it. This is what's going on right now. So how we deal with rejection is incredibly important. It's the story that we tell ourselves. So what is the story that you're telling yourself about this? That you're not good enough, that you weren't hot enough and appealing enough and perfect enough for him to stay, that you'll never feel like this ever again? What are some of the things that you're saying to yourself that's feeding the fear that is at the core of the feeling of rejection that is perpetuating all the rumination? So on the one hand, these are all behaviors of passion. It is why we call ourselves fools in love, and it's why there's crimes of passion that can make us crazy. And at the same time, there's stories that you're telling yourself and things that you're saying to yourself about this situation, about yourself in this situation, that is feeding the fear and making things worse for you. There is a very, very strong chance that this is someone that you would never actually be able to sustain a long-term relationship with, even if he was ready to be in a relationship. And so can you see this for what it was, which was an amazing experience, an amazing adventure, a love story, not a life story? And can you perhaps pick up on some things about who he is and what he wants to do in life, and maybe see that actually you two are not as compatible as you might think? And that just maybe, I don't know, but maybe the two of you, because of who he is, beyond him not wanting to be in a relationship, that maybe the two of you are actually not right for each other long term. My instinct tells me that this has more to do with, I'm not good enough. I wasn't good enough to have him stay. Now let's try to bring your energy back into your center and see where you can start to channel it into areas of your life that needs it. And then there needs to be some boundaries. You do not have to remain close friends with this person. Here's the thing. this idea of like two people having this very intense psycho-emotional and sexual connection, and that to think that they can just like then become friends is so insane to me. And this is not to put anyone down. I have nothing but compassion. I've been there myself, but we have to call it what it is. It's insanity. First of all, it does not, we're not acknowledging the uniqueness of that connection. How can we say that something like that can actually just go into friendship? Then we're not actually honoring how intense and important and emotional that connection was. And it also is insane because you're never going to be able to let go. So this is now where you need boundaries. And you need to put a boundary on yourself where you're not checking the social media, and you need to put the boundary that you're not going to be friends, because chances are the two of you were not meant to be friends. That's not the nature of your relationship. And you'd be lying to yourself if you told yourself that you could be good friends. And people will do that all the time. Let's be friends because, I don't know, they don't have a particular attachment, or they're so attached that, they're like, I can have you in my life in a way that makes it so that I don't have to completely grieve you. So don't do that to yourself. And start to put your energy towards something else. And realize that you are a human being having a very human experience. But part of it is because you cannot believe that you've been rejected. And there's stories that you're telling yourself about this that is making it much, much worse, and putting him on a pedestal and putting you very much below the pedestal. And it's all an illusion. None of it is actually true, even though I totally understand why you're going there. So my guess is that you having some context around what is actually happening, some insight into all of this, and then adding some boundaries around to your thinking, adding boundaries around social media, and definitely having the boundaries about friendship, and being able to reframe this as like an amazing experience that really was not meant to go any further, will give you a chance to reclaim your freedom. Thank you for being here. Please do not hesitate to share this episode with someone who you think could use it, because you just never know whose life you could be changing. And please do not hesitate to reach out to me at hello@jillianonlove.com. I want to hear from you. I want to hear your questions. I want to hear your comments, your concerns, your requests. This podcast is for you. So I thank you. And until next time. Jillian On Love is a QCODE production, executive produced by David Henning and Steve Wilson, produced and edited by Travis Howe, music by Will Tendy.